machinations that had brought her favorite and most pliable child to the throne of Rondelmar. With a serene face and simple taste in clothing, she was outwardly the picture of a devout and matronly woman. Yesterday, in a vast ceremony before the massed populace of Pallas, she had been made a living saint, but no one then had seen any sign of her chilling and callous intellect. Guile had witnessed enough evidence of her ruthlessness to know that her approval alone would see the second part of the plan accepted.
And we will need her favor even more urgently if anything goes wrong.
The man who had invested Lucia as a saint, Archprelate Werther, sat opposite Guile, swirling his wine and looking about contentedly. He met Guile's eyes and smiled amiably. The prelate looked harmless enough, like a parish priest promoted past his capability, but he was a wily old hog. The Church of Cor was no place for fools. Next to the prelate, the imperial treasurer Calen Dubrail was leaning back in his chair, eyes unfocused, mentally counting money, perhaps. He was a slim, dapper man with careful eyes. He'd been appointed treasurer following the ascension of the emperor. His analytical mind and head for the gold that flowed through the coffers of Urta's mightiest state made him perfect for the job. Guile had no love for either of the two men talking in the corner. When his homeland had revolted against the Empire 18 years ago, he and Bellonius Vult had been part of that rebellion. Cultus Corian and Tomas Batillan had been the generals who'd eventually crushed the uprising. And now here they all were, part of a fresh conspiracy, the Noros revolt forgotten. Except it wasn't. Not really. You didn't forget things like that, no matter how many years had passed. Cultus Corian looked like a hero, and was, to the man on the street. His pale hair was swept back from a strong face, framing steely eyes and a jutting jaw. His combative manner only heightened the heroic illusion. The man with him, burly, uncouth Tomas Batillan, swilled wine as he tapped Corian on the chest, making some point.
Neither will like the next part of the plan,
Guile thought. He rubbed his thumb and forefinger together, invoked his gnosis, and bled a little heat into his red wine to combat the chill in the room. All eyes went to him as he did it. Everyone else was a pure-blood mage and highly sensitive to any use of the gnosis. He opened his hand, palm up, to indicate that what he'd done was no threat. Mater Imperia Lucia inclined her head to him gracefully, then called to the two military men.
Cultus? Tomas? I believe Master Vult is ready. We await your attention.
Corian and Batillan stalked back to their seats. Corian's low grumbling quieted only when Lucia narrowed her eyes. The living saint glanced down at her papers, then around the table.
Gentlemen, in 12 months, the Third Crusade begins, giving us the chance to achieve certain of our objectives. Among them, the destruction of the merchant magi cabal, the death of Duke Echor of Argundi, the only real rival to my son, the destruction of the Ordo Castruo and Antonin Miros, the plunder of northern Antiopia and subsequent enrichment of our treasury, and the recapture of Javon. Magister Volt and Magister Guile have invested much time and thought, and we've already covered the Javon problem. She turned to the two Norromen. That aspect of your plans already has our approval. She looked at Volt. So, with my son's permission, Governor, please, continue.
The Emperor inclined his head distractedly, not that anyone really noticed. Bellonius stood and thanked her, and then began, his clear voice easily filling the room. Your Majesties, gentlemen, according to our plans, Javon will be paralyzed and unable to support the Shihad by the time the Moontide arrives and the Leviathan Bridge rises from the sea, thus securing the northern flank, and our supply lines for the armies of the Crusade. This leaves us free to turn our attention to other things, namely